Article 26, because basically, by a plain reading of it, it basically prohibits multifamily housing, right?
Right.
And it limits density to,
right.
21 units per acre. So, let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that the state can override that with their density bonus. And let's also assume, for the sake of argument, that maybe a multifamily overlay may not comply with our charter, and to vote to put it in would be a violation of the charter. So can you explain, kind of walk us through, maybe mentally or visually, what it would look like based on Article 26 as it's written, state density bonus, accepting that it's a fact, no multifamily overlay because there's questions about whether it may be legal, and what that would look like in Alameda to meet this 4,800 unit requirement of RHNA.
Your question is, what does it look like if we don't do a multifamily overlay?
Well, that's the assumption I'm asking. Assume that maybe a multifamily overlay let's just assume, for instance, that it may be in violation of the charter, because the charter is pretty clear. And multifamily overlay, there's no state preemption on multifamily overlay. There's state preemption on state density bonus.
Yes, that's right. I think that I don't think it's an assumption. It's pretty clear. Like state, the issue is the state says you need to show us how you are going to provide for all income levels. So, and this question came up from one of the speakers. Like, I don't get it. Like, how are we going? It seems like even if we find the land for the 2,800, we're going to be short, because I think what she was saying is that you only have a 15% inclusionary requirement. So how are you going to get all those affordable? The state says you need to show us how the land that you've made available is going to provide for all income groups. And it gives us a couple options. Option number one, give us a study and show us with empirical evidence that if you just build on those sites with the zoning that you have, and the land values you have, and the cost of living that you have, the cost of housing that you have in your community, that when somebody builds that project under that zoning, there's units that are available, that are affordable to all income groups. Obviously, in the Bay Area, that is just not possible to do unless you have some way, since our lower income categories is about 50% of our total RHNA. So how do you ensure that many units are made available to those income groups? You can either say, hey, you can either show them, maybe you, at some small town out, on the Nevada border, you say, well, look, here's the market rate for these units, and here's some documentation. See, people can afford them. That might pass muster with the state. Number two, you can find some other way, and the city tried this in 2003, like we'll just subsidize everything. We were going to use redevelopment money. We were going to just throw a lot of money at our affordable housing need. Our affordable housing need was much smaller in 2003 for that round than it is today, much smaller. And then the third option is the multifamily option. This is the option that we utilized for the last two housing rounds. What state law says is, if you can show us how your zoning works, but we will make the assumption at the state level that if your zoning is high density and it allows multifamily by right, and for a city of our size, if it's 30 units or more per acre, Measure A, remember, is only 21. So, and Measure A says no multifamily housing at all. State law says if your zoning shows that you permit multifamily housing and it shows that you provide high density housing, minimum 30 units the acre, we will accept that because we believe that that's the kind of zoning that facilitates more affordable housing. So if you don't do the multifamily overlay again in Alameda, and this is one of the decisions that we want to sort of make as a or get direction from the council over the next few months. Like, what direction, which of these roads do you want to go down? If we don't do the multifamily overlay, that leaves us with the two other options. I don't think we will be successful arguing that single family development in the inner Bay Area and Alameda is affordable. That's not going to work. So that sort of leads the third approach, which would be a very expensive
Amazing,
approach.
Ashley.
Laura, we can hear you.
Oh.
Well, it wasn't me.
Sorry,